We are just one day away from the fantasy football season beginning, and we have 16 fiery, high Scoville hot takes for the fantasy football season. This is going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, these are little gutalytics. They're not insanely serious, so don't get too hot and bothered in the comments here. Let us know how hot you think these takes are. These are not going to be like Tyreek Hill gets outscored by Jalen Waddle, which is like probably a 30% chance of happening. These are going to be like sub 5% chance of happening type of takes here. So, Danny, I will let you get us kicked off. We're going to start on the NFC side. We're going to go division by division. Each of us has picked one by division, and neither of us knows the other one. All we tried to coordinate was that we didn't pick the exact same one. So, Danny, I'll let you get it kicked off. We'll start in the NFC East, your home division as a Cowboys fan. What is your hot take, your steaming hot take for the 2025 season?
And it's funny because you basically guessed it when we were writing it down. This is probably one of my tamer predictions, but I still think it's spicy again, given current ADPs. The Cowboys pull a 2024 Bengals. Lamb is the wide receiver 1 overall. Pickens finishes a top 12 wide receiver. Dak Prescott en route to a top 6 level quarterback finish. The nuts and bolts of the situation, the Cowboys defense, historically in the last few years, well, Micah Parsons has been on the field. Number 1 in defensive EPA. Corey, where do they rank when Micah Parsons is off the field?
Probably like 20th.
Dead last in defensive EPA.
Maybe we should have paid the guy.
Maybe we should have. Instead, we're now signing the extensions with Bland. We bring back Hunter Lupke, fullback great. Jerry's ego is standing in the way, but you know what it's not standing in the way of? This fucking offense producing fantasy points. Dak might have 700 pass attempts given the context of this current situation. We're going to need to be scoring 30 plus points, 32 plus points to win a lot of these games starting on Thursday Night Football. And I do think it's going to come via the pass game. You bring in Tyler Booker to solidify that interior offensive line. Maybe Tyler Guyton takes that next step this year, a year removed from his rookie season. Brian Schottenheimer, Clayton Adams, another big factor offensive line coach from Arizona, comes over to potentially implement some more schemes, develop those offensive linemen up front. And on top of that, the offensive identity that we have is through the passing game. It's not going to be Javonte Williams. It's not going to be Miles Sanders. Sorry, Corey. It's not going to be Jaden Blue. It's going to be through Dak Prescott, through 88, and through number 3. I think when it's all said and done, Dak Prescott, 4,500 plus passing yards, flirting with that 35 to 40 plus passing touchdown area. CeeDee Lamb, triple crown winner, like I said, wide receiver 1 overall. And George Pickens, I can very much see him having a 80 catch, 1,200 yard, 8 touchdown type of year, big time breakout. Because when he was engaged last year, you would see it. He was a legitimate alpha 28% target share player.
Yeah, I'm not going to add anything else to your take because I figured you would talk for 5 minutes about the Cowboys, and you did. So, yes, I think that is a very reasonable take for what it's worth. Javonte Williams, Sanders, Jaden Blue led backfield. A lot of their best skill sets, specifically Williams and Blue, are actually as receivers anyways. So I do think you're probably going to be throwing the ball like crazy. Defense not going to be very good. Probably not winning a whole lot of games, I would imagine, in Dallas. Maybe 7 to 9 wins at most, it would be my guess. If you seriously think you guys are going to win 12 games, you're nuts.
We won 7 last year. Parsons was injured last year, and Dak was injured last year. If Dak's healthy, you're winning at least 8 or 9, at least.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens in Dallas, but I do think that's a good fantasy football take. I'll stay in the NFC East here, and I'll go to the Giants, who are kind of the low, little brother of the division for the last decade or so. Tyrone Tracy finishes as a top 10 scoring running back in fantasy football is my hot take. And the basic reasoning here is that Cam Scadaboo's been kind of out of the picture all offseason. He's been banged up. It doesn't sound like even when he was healthy, he was like a significant part of the backfield on the first team. I think he's going to be mixed in. I think he's probably going to have a role of some kind. But Tyrone Tracy, start to finish, has been the starting running back through all of camp. I think Russell Wilson can make this offense decent. I've talked about it in regards to Malik Neighbors. They can score 20, 22 points a game, be about a league average offense if things break right for them, or who knows, maybe Jackson Dart's kind of a revelation and they are a breakout kind of sleeper unit. Either way, Tyrone Tracy on a 60, 70, maybe even 80% opportunity share. I think he can be an awesome fantasy running back for those of you guys that drafted him in the 7th, 8th, 9th round or something like that as a, second running back in a hero RB. I think he could be a absolute steal at that price tag because he can break big plays. He's very athletic. He can catch the football. He was a former wide receiver, converted wide receiver coming out of the draft. And I think that top 10 is within his range of outcomes. It's possible that, hear me out, a 4th round running back is just a backup because a 4th round running back often means just a backup, just because Bucky Irving was Bucky Irving and Tracy himself last year was a day 3 pick who ended up starting. What if Tracy's just way better than Scadaboo?
Yeah, and I love Tyrone Tracy coming out. He also has the factor that he was so productive as a rookie. We have heard the reports, Jordan Renan, even prior to Cam Scadaboo's hamstring injury, it was the Tyrone Tracy show. So we're getting potentially, maybe instead of a bottom three offense, potentially a lot more of a floor, I would say, with Russell Wilson in there. Maybe they're in the 20 to 25 range, and Tyrone Tracy has a 3-down skill set. So love that. When you mentioned the team, I knew it was between two players, and I actually guessed that it would be Tyrone Tracy prior to recording.
Yeah, I could have been neighbors for sure. I could have
Yeah.
easily said he finishes as wide receiver 1 overall, but I actually don't think that's very much of a hot take, to be honest. He led the position in targets per game when he was healthy last year. So NFC West, let's move on to that division, and I'll let you kick it off with a take out of here.
Spice levels. We're talking 10 out of 10. Like we're talking muy picante is how you told me it's referred to as now. Week 5 on, after the first month of the season, Torrey Horton straight up outscores Cooper Kupp and finishes as a top 36 wide receiver in fantasy. We're talking spicy. The Scoville meters are out. I think Cooper Kupp is washed. And I fucking hate that you guys made me take him in our freaking listener league because you fell to the 10-8. I am praying I'm able to shop him within the first month of the year because I think once Torrey Horton hits the ground running, the skill set he brings, X wide receiver frame, he was on my sleepers video for a reason. I can see him playing that Rashid Shaheed role in that Kubiak scheme. Chris Olave, JSN, a lot of similarities in their game archetype. Torrey Horton has that 4.41 speed. He's finally getting fully healthy after the lower body injuries that really hurt him in this last collegiate season. And if Cooper Kupp falters at all, which based on the last few years, it seems pretty likely of happening, Torrey Horton has the opportunity to be a top 2 weapon in this offense for an offense that with Kubiak has a very high floor.
Yeah, no, that's a really good take. I mean, Torrey Horton was a guy that I actually really liked for a number of years because he's been on the NFL draft radar for like 3 years now because he was, as a sophomore at Colorado State, junior, he was really productive. So people thought, oh, he might come out in the draft, might be a top 10 receiver. Just gets so much different kind of looks that he saw in college. He was like a Malachi Corley get the ball in his hand guy for 1 year. Then he was a downfield receiver for another year. Like
against Colorado. You remember that game?
Yeah. There was games where full seasons where he was used completely differently.
Yeah. Which goes to show you, I mean, that 3-level skill set, being able to play both roles. I really think with Kubiak, the vision for him, that 6'3", 190-pound frame, 4.41 speed, he has to be the vertical threat. He has to be the X in the offense. There's a reason why the team cut Marquez Valdes-Scantling before the season because they expect Horton to assume that role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that take. And this might be my hottest one, I think. Puka Nacua outscores Cooper Kupp's 2021 season this year. So Cooper Kupp, 26.6 PPR points per game in 2021. And the reason, obviously, this totally hinges on Matthew Stafford being healthy. So again, it's a hot take. Matthew Stafford plays the whole season, 17 games, all that good stuff. Even if he misses a game or two, it's not a big deal. Puka Nacua, in my opinion, at this point in his career, is a better receiver than Cooper Kupp was in 2021 at that point in his career. Because coming into that season, Cooper Kupp was drafted like the 4th, 5th round of fantasy drafts, had a bad year in 2020, not that great of a season, coming off of an ACL tear a couple years before that. Puka Nacua separates at a 90th plus percentile rate across the board. And schematically, just the way that you play this Rams offense now, Devontae Adams is a legit X receiver. You are going to have to put your number 1 corner on him. You're going to have to shade over the top on him. And when Cooper Kupp was at his best, they had that like sacrificial X receiver on the team. In 2022, before he got injured, it was Allen Robinson. In 2021, it was Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods there. So, or was Brandon Cooks still in Los Angeles in 2021?
Allen Robinson replaced Brandon Cooks, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so either way, Cooper Kupp was the chess piece. He was the one moved around the formation. He was the one in the advantageous matchups, and that is exactly what I think Puka Nacua will do. Oh, and by the way, Matthew Stafford, kingmaker of wide receivers in fantasy football. So yes, Adams could be a threat, could catch red zone touches and all that kind of stuff. But as long as Puka and Stafford stay healthy, I think we're getting a legit legendary season from this dude.
Well, everything we've heard from Rams camp this offseason has pointed to they want to be more dynamic on offense. They don't want to be that offense that is, 15 plays, 3-4 yards at a time. Like we kind of see it got stale at some points last year. I think they're going to open it up, assuming, again, Matthew Stafford back at practice with that back injury, he stays fully healthy. I can totally see him having his best year since that 2021 year. If you guys recall in 2021, very, very high activity offense. Obviously, Cooper Kupp did what he did. Matthew Stafford, 41 passing touchdowns. 17 interceptions as well, which goes to show you that he's willing to put the ball in harm's way. He's willing to trust his dynamic Mercurial wide receivers. Puka Nacua definitely fits that bill.
Yeah, no, like that's an extremely high bar, obviously, and we're
Yep.
playing for ceilings here. But I legitimately do think that is Puka Nakua's ceiling, just because of how smart of a coach Sean McVay is, how good of a quarterback Matthew Stafford is, how good of a receiver Puka Nakua is, and again, schematically, how they deploy him, how they move him around the formation. I get he hasn't scored touchdowns in his career at this point in time, but you like Terry McLaurin before last year didn't score touchdowns either and had 13 of them.
You know why he hasn't scored touchdowns? Because they haven't thrown for many touchdowns. Like, we haven't really seen Matthew Stafford being opened up in these last couple of years. And like I said, the year Cooper Kupp did what he did, 41 passing touchdowns. Matthew Stafford, nobody's arguing, is a capable enough quarterback to get back to that level.
Yeah, no, exactly. So moving into the NFC South, which is my home division as a Buccaneers fan, I'll let you kick it off. I think we have the same team that we're talking about here.
Yeah, we do. And shout out the Flock League. If you guys remember last year, Mason sniped me a pick before on Nico Collins. I end up taking Jalen Waddle. Before the season even starts, I realized, hey, Nico Collins needs to be on my football team. I traded him. Obviously, that ended up sparking up the whole, reality show, dramatic show portion of the channel, because you guys really seem to enjoy the aspect of everybody's filming in the clips, getting their takes in. If you guys recall, the second video on the channel this year is me making a trade with Mason and getting Drake London. My take, Drake London is this year's Nico Collins. He finishes as a top 5 wide receiver. Actually, I'm going to go even a step further. Finishes as a top 3 to 5 wide receiver in PPR points per game, like Collins was when he was healthy last season. And he leads the NFL in targets. The nuts and bolts for why I believe this to be the case with Drake London is in the 3 games we saw him operate with Michael Penix last year. We're talking about a legitimate 23-point per game score, 13 targets per game, mid to high 30s in terms of target share. Michael Penix slated to start in week 1. We have potentially even a high-profile game. Obviously, you guys are going to put up points on the other end. I think the wide receiver 3 to 5 campaign for Drake London starts off with a bang, 30-plus points on your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 15 targets, and people wonder, why wasn't this guy a first-round pick? He is my 13th overall player right now. I have him ranked straight up above Monter St. Brown, and I think that's going to be a consensus come, like I said, week 3, week 4 of the season.
Yeah, no, I think you should have said he finishes wide receiver 1 overall.
Fuck it. Let's get wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 overall, because CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver 1 in the hot takes. Wide receiver 2 overall, and I have the top 2 wide receivers in points per game this year.
This guy's bias seeps through into his hot takes. He can't even say that in a hot take scenario, CeeDee Lamb gets outscored by somebody.
Well, I already mentioned earlier in the NFC East one that Lamb would be the wide receiver 1 overall, so I got to keep the theme. If I already predicted that, Drake London, you're wide receiver 2. Welcome aboard the next Nico Collins.
Okay. All right. So I'm staying on the train of the Falcons here. And it's actually a very similar take to my Puka Nakua one, is that I think that Bijan Robinson will have the season named after him. And maybe it's Puka Nakua. I'm going to go for these 2 guys and maybe one works out. And I would say that's a good hit rate. But we see legendary running back seasons. Who do you think of, Danny, when I say 2019?
McCaffrey.
Who do you think of when I say 2017?
2017 Todd Gurley.
Yeah, there's seasons named after players. 2020 Alvin Kamara, 2021 Cooper Kupp is a good example of this as well. So
2025 CeeDee Lamb
season could legitimately be named after Bijan Robinson. Now, I think there's a possibility that the Falcons' offensive line injuries and stuff catch up, but that's not the scenario I'm playing with right now. In my scenario, everything's fine. Everything's hunky-dory, and Bijan, as a 24-year-old running back, who, for my money, is the best running back in football, or at least one of the 3 best running backs in football, he has 100-plus target type of season. He has 18-plus touchdowns. Like last year, he had 15-plus touchdowns with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, and he was still a top 5 targeted running back at the position as well. So everything here, the cocktail, the concoction of how you get one of those seasons, it's usually a very young running back, year 3, year 4, in his prime, ready to take off with elite receiving upside. And I think Bijan leads all players in fantasy points this year.
Yeah, I mean, keeping a theme, I predicted a CeeDee Lamb wide receiver 1 overall, my 2nd overall pick in the Flock League. You predict, of course, Bijan Robinson legendary season, your 3rd overall pick in the Flock League. So we're staying on brand. Again, if we're going to go out there and show you guys that we're willing to take these guys, we're willing to predict them to have monster seasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's go to the NFC North, closing out the NFC here, and let's see what you've cooked up.
And again, you can grade me on a meter, Scoville meter, in terms of how spicy this is. My spicy take is there's 4 very quality tight ends in this division, all guys going in, top 12 level in ADP. I actually think the two later guys in ADP outscore the two guys going before them. Tucker Kraft and Colson Loveland are both top 5 tight ends in fantasy and straight up outscore Laporta and Hawkinson, who, like I said, both go higher in ADP. With Tucker Kraft, we're getting a little bit more pessimism right now. The Jaden Reed foot injury, Jones fracture, don't really know what's going on there. Matthew Golden, obviously a rookie wide receiver. And I've said it all offseason. Tucker Kraft with more usage could very well turn into this year's Mark Andrews. And I think that's what ends up happening. We see Jordan Love's pass rate go up, 28 attempts per game last year following the injury. I think it spikes closer to the 34 he was at in 2023. And I just think Tucker Kraft is a damn good football player. I think when it's all said and done, he's a clear top 2 target on this team. We're talking a 70 catch, 950 yard, 8 touchdown level year, finishes as top 5 tight end. And you guys would have heard it on my sleeper video. I am Colson Loveland pilled. This is this year's Brock Bowers, attached to Ben Johnson, the skill set that he has in the open field, the ability to separate like nobody's business at 6'6" and 250 pounds. Like Tucker Kraft, I think he will end up being a top 2 target on the Bears and a top 5 tight end in fantasy.
Yeah, that's a pretty on-brand, bold prediction for you. And I'm actually going to kind of curtail off of your Colson Loveland part of that as well. Yep. I think that Caleb Williams on a ceiling range of outcomes, and people are used to you glazing Caleb Williams. I'm going to call him the fantasy overall quarterback 1 in his high-end range of outcomes. Because think about it. Who's outscoring Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen? Probably nobody. But if somebody does, it's probably a guy that runs the football at least 75, 80% of the level of some of those guys.
600+ yards.
Caleb Williams was 5th in the NFL in rushing among quarterbacks last year. Caleb Williams has a million receivers to throw to who none of us can figure out which ones are the best ones. And if all of them are good, say Odunze takes a step forward, DJ Moore's still a good receiver, Loveland's a breakout guy, Luther Burden's a great young player.
Say the quote, Danny. Say the quote. Take the syrup over the pancakes.
Yeah. The syrup is Caleb Williams gets all the fantasy points that they get. So why wouldn't I just take Caleb Williams? There's leagues, including sharp leagues like our Flock League draft, where he isn't even being drafted. You can draft him very late in drafts if your league is really skittish of him specifically, or just not taking a lot of quarterbacks in general. Like in my home league draft, 14, 15, 16 quarterbacks get drafted. And Caleb Williams might be your very last pick or a very late pick for you. And he has legit 2018 Patrick Mahomes upside where he came out of nowhere, ends up leading. Like, do I think Caleb Williams is going to throw 50 touchdowns like Patrick Mahomes? I mean, I think it's possible given his receiving core, but I actually really like him as a runner. I think that's where he could actually become an elite fantasy quarterback.
And if you're in a league where Caleb Williams was maybe in the last round or maybe just undrafted in general, like we typically don't say, hey, if you have an elite quarterback, you can take a backup. But like if Caleb Williams' opportunity cost is the 15th round or off free agency, even if you have a Daniels, an Allen, a Burrow, a Jalen Hurts, I don't mind rostering him because, quite frankly, he's got the level of upside to the point where he could make one of those guys expendable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He can make those guys expendable for sure. So let's keep it rolling here. I want to keep this video relatively short if we can. Let's roll to the AFC East, Danny. What do you got?
AFC East. And if you watched, again, the breakouts video, this is very on brand. Trevion Henderson is this year's Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's a top 5 running back in fantasy playoffs. And I don't even think this is the spiciest take of all time, to be honest, because I think we would both agree from a skill set perspective, from a receiving volume potential perspective, like if Trevion Henderson is the lead, the team's not only lead running back, but they're clear bell cow running back come that time, I think top 5 might actually end up being the expectation. If we go to Jahmyr Gibbs in his rookie season, weeks 1 to 6, again, sparingly used 54% of the snaps, 13.2 rush attempts per game. Obviously, fighting off a guy in David Montgomery who was taking a lot of the work. We saw week 7 to 18, once his workload expanded, he came back from injury. 18.5 points per game, 61% of the snaps, and he was a 5.45 yards per carry rusher with 5 targets per game. Imagine that type of efficiency as a rusher, which I think Trevion Henderson can absolutely attain in the context of this new Patriots offense. But for an offensive coordinator who saw James White have 123 targets in the season and have a top 12 running back year with sub 500 rushing yards, I don't think people know. I think people understand Trevion Henderson has a very, very high fantasy ceiling. there is a ceiling where this guy is one of the guys you need come fantasy playoff time. So my prediction, like I said, top 5 running back at that point. He's going to be consensus in everybody's rankings. And he's got a pretty decent schedule at that point. Matchup-wise, maybe not, but potential high-scoring game environments. Buffalo going to be able to score on the other end. Baltimore going to be able to score on the other end. And who knows, maybe at that point by week 17, the Jets have just given up on the season.
Yeah. And it's possible that, a lot of that would hinge on the Patriots being a lot better than maybe some people think they're going to be. Obviously, we're high on the Patriots, but yeah, if Trevion Henderson can carve out an 80-plus target, or let's say by the time he takes over the workload, 5+ targets per game from that point onward, and then he's also getting 10 to 12 carries. Think of DeAndre Swift's second season, where he started to work into the backfield, and then he ended up becoming the starter, and he ended up finishing as a top 12 running back that year. I think Trevion Henderson to DeAndre Swift's second season is probably a good comparison for what you could be getting. And my comp for him actually coming out of college was DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I believe it was same for me as well. But Corey, keeping the theme of the AFC East. And
yeah, I got to go with the Jets one, right?
The jersey in the back.
Yeah, I'm not a Jets fan. Everyone assumes I'm a Jets fan just because I have a Namath jersey. I just love Joe Namath, and I'm Unk, and I was around when he was playing. Breece Hall silences the doubters. And I'm not talking, he finishes as a top 12 running back. No, he's a top 3 running back in fantasy points per game this year.
After he gets traded to the Cowboys.
What's up, sorry?
After he gets traded to the Cowboys.
Sure.
Relax.
After we all expected him to do this last year, people have given up on Breece Hall. And people are thinking now that Braylon Allen, who's a fine running back, but he's not much better than most other backup running backs around the league, Tyler Algier types and whatnot. Isaiah Davis, fine third running back, probably a special teams guy, maybe gets a couple touches here. Let's not forget that Breece Hall is legitimately one of the better prospects we've seen over the last 10 years, and finished as an RB1 off a blown ACL, top 6 running back in fantasy with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian as his quarterbacks in his second season off of a blown ACL. So with a bad offensive line, by the way, which has improved since then, even though Elijah Vera Tucker is apparently banged up right now. Breece Hall has been, every year of his career, 4.5+ targets per game, including his rookie season, ACL stuff. When you look at when he's been really healthy, post, the training wheels are off and that kind of thing, we're talking about 5-6 targets per game. So for me, I think he can get there. Let's say the Jets are still pretty bad, they're a bottom 10 NFL offense. I just think, I've been talking about this all offseason with the Jets. The vibes are going to be better. It's a real coaching staff. Aaron Rodgers isn't running the show. Justin Fields might not be much, but he can get the football to Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, and they can move the ball a little bit on offense. I'm not saying they're going to be an exceptional offense by any means, but Breece Hall can basically have what Alvin Kamara had last year with the Saints, where it was, I'm getting my value through the receiving game. Yes, my offense isn't great, but we'll have games where we put up points, and Breece Hall has, 8 to 10 touchdowns and 95+ targets.
I will say it would be objectively hilarious if all of that came true after a trade to the Cowboys.
It would be funny. Yes, it would be funny. But I just tend to think that Breece Hall is still one of the best 5 to 10 running backs in football. Yeah. Maybe I'm on an island with that take. I still think he's that good. He's an elite athlete, an elite receiver. Yeah. He's in a contract year. People are writing him off, and I don't think he's writing back.
Yeah, no, I dig it. I mean, I believe in the talent. Again, I'm a little bit more pessimistic about the workload, but just send him to a situation where we don't have to worry about Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis hype.
I don't think they're factors when you're as good as Breece Hall. I just really don't. Maybe
we'll find out.
1 week, 2, we're 50%, 58% snap share for Breece Hall. This is actually becoming a problem. But I think eventually, as has been the case every single season of Breece Hall's career, for the first 3-4 weeks, he tends to start slow, and then people are like, oh shit, we need to get this guy the football. And then he just continues to get more and more touches. A lot of that was injury related earlier in his career, but I just feel very confident that he's going to get back to elite fantasy running back status. Yeah. Why we were taking him as a top 5 to 6 fantasy asset last year.
Yeah, no, I definitely dig that. But Corey, what division are we heading to next?
AFC West. What do you got?
Woo!
I got one very similar to your Seahawks one, actually.
So, spoiler alert, this is the greasiest take of mine. And in fact, people in the audience know this as a meme. But let me just say,
are you going to say Noah Gray finishes as a top 10 tight end or something?
My take for the AFC West is Travis Kelce wears down, misses time. Noah Gray steps in as a top 12 tight end without him and is the Chiefs franchise tight end after Travis Kelce retires this offseason. We saw a bit of the wear down last year. I think this could very well be the year where Travis Kelce completely breaks down. Maybe, again, I don't want to say significant injury, but this is an old guy. This is a guy that's played a lot of the games, a lot of volume in the last few years. And I'm convinced that Noah Gray is one of the most underrated tight end talents in the league. If he had an opportunity, which in this scenario he will because Travis Kelce will miss time, to operate as that Chiefs full-end tight end one, I think the offense wouldn't skip a beat. I think Noah Gray already has signed to an extension, $6 million per year across these next few years. I think he is going to be one of the best value contracts at tight end as well. After this year, after he puts up 750 yards, 10 touchdowns because Kelce misses time, people are going to start and think, well, why weren't we taking this guy where Isaiah Likely was going to fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, it is totally a meme pick by you, but it makes sense. Like, it's not like outrageous. I think if Kelce, like, there's very few tight ends around the NFL that if the starter ahead of them went down, they would actually be huge waiver pickups. Like, obviously, Isaiah Likely is the one that everybody can think of off the top of their head, but like maybe Ben Sinnott of the Commanders if Ertz were to go down. Noah Gray, obviously, of the Chiefs would be probably pretty fantasy relevant if the starter ahead of him went down. There's examples of it, but I do think, Noah Gray, I mean, top 10 to 12 probably would be within the range of outcomes for sure if Kelce were to miss significant time. Mine's also Greasy, but this has been kind of my guy for a couple of years, 2-3 years now, and he is the highest graded in our prospect model day 3 wide receiver to ever be drafted on day 3. He's picked 102 in the draft, so he was barely a day 3 pick. But I'm sticking with the shower narrative, dude. The buzz is positive on Troy Franklin for the Denver Broncos, and I am predicting that he has 1,000 yards and 6+ touchdowns this year.
Hey, go Boulder. He outscores Cortland Sutton. He outscored Cortland Sutton. Say it with your chest. He outscores Cortland Sutton. He
outscores Cortland Sutton.
Let's go.
Troy Franklin outscores Cortland Sutton this year. And Cortland Sutton, about 30 years old, good receiver, but not exceptional. Troy Franklin added weight in the offseason. Troy Franklin connected for 2,300 yards and 22 touchdowns at Oregon with his quarterback, Bo Nix, who is currently his quarterback now. And in the preseason, I've seen the usage I need to see. It's him, it's Marvin Mims, and it's Cortland Sutton. These are the top 3 receivers on this offense. Troy Franklin supposedly also going to play the slot, which him and Devon Vele were competing for when Devon Vele was traded to the Saints. So I feel pretty confident that Bo Nix knows this receiver. He's played with him in college. Troy Franklin, again, exceptionally good prospect. The problem with him was that he was undersized, a little bit of a strength issue. Apparently there was some stuff, maybe work ethic wise before the combine. His combine wasn't very good, but he had legit like dominant production his final year at Oregon. As a junior at 20 years old, him and Bo Nix tore the Pac-12 up.
Well, it is funny because we talked about like a similar archetype wide receiver that actually weighed in a little bit heavier at the combine, but specifically people thought he was skinny coming out. That literally appeared on this video. Like Torrey Horton, the way I'm hyping him up, like I could see Franklin kind of playing that role.
Yeah, and if I'm going for like, let's say Chipotle level spicy instead of like, Ghost Carolina Reaper spicy, like him outscoring Cortland Sutton, I would say that he's this year's Jameson Williams as like a Chipotle level spicy, where he's like a top 24 receiver on big plays, has like 110 targets, like 950 yards, 8 touchdowns, something like that. Because this is his game, man. We've seen it in the preseason week 2 against the Arizona Cardinals, caught 2 touchdowns in that game. Like he's got upside, like legitimately. If you guys are in dynasty leagues right now, go buy him before you have no more chance to do so.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fine. He's super cheap right now. If you're like Corey and you are Troy Franklin pilled, obviously the connection, like you said, the shower narrative there, can totally see that being the case because neither of us believe in Marvin Mims. I've been a little bit more on Pat Bryant than you. You've been obviously on the Franklin train. But regardless, though, if we're making the bet against Mims and we don't think Sutton's a true alpha in an offense we believe in, one of these guys has to emerge.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think Nix will be great too. Like that's the other thing. It's like if Nix is as good as I think he's going to be, he's going to bring somebody else along and it might as well be the guy he's connected with for more yards and touchdowns than anybody on the team.
Yeah, no, I totally could see that happening. Again, spicy takes. We're coming at you with them. Corey, let's take us to the next division.
Yeah. And do you want me to kick it off or you want to start it off with the AFC South?
Your call. I mean, mine's going to be obvious, so maybe kick it off with yours.
I mean, mine's going to be even more obvious because Josh Downs finishes as a wide receiver 1 is mine. As far as his fantasy points per game, he's like a 16+ point per game score. That's basically what my take is on Josh Downs. And to get to that level, you got to be like 1,200+ yards, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns or more. I believe in Daniel Jones. Call me crazy. I think Daniel Jones is a capable quarterback. I think he can be Geno Smith, Sam Darnold level quarterback in terms of getting the football to his playmakers. He has never in his career had this level of offensive line help, especially because the Giants have had terrible offensive lines his whole career. He's never had, I mean, Brian Daboll was a good coach, but Shane Steichen, I think, can scheme up the good plays and that kind of thing. His leading receivers in 2022, before he got his contract extension, were Richie James and Darius Slayton. All Both of those receivers would be wide receiver 5 on the Indianapolis Colts. A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, and Alec Pierce, plus Tyler Warren, the tight end, Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield. Easily the best pass catching and weapons core that he's ever had in his career. So my opinion is that Josh Downs is the best one in the core. He legitimately, Danny, do you know how many receivers had a higher zone coverage win rate per reception perception last year than Josh Downs?
4.
The answer is 0.
Oh,
he had the highest win rate against zone coverage in the league last year among the guys that Harmon charted. And he charted Puka Nakua's and Justin Jefferson's and like guys that are legit absolute monsters.
Bush. And famously, he outscored Zay Flowers.
He did outscore Zay Flowers. Like when he was healthy last year, he was legit like a mid wide receiver 2. So this is actually not that much of a hot take when you factor in that he did that with Anthony Richardson in his second season with a high ankle sprain that cost him most of the early portion of the offseason last year. So hopefully he's healthy. It sounds like he's been back at practice for like at least a week now. I think Josh Downs is going to be an absolute steal in drafts. People who took him in the 7th, 8th round.
Yeah, and it is hilarious because my take is quite literally the same. Top 12 wide receiver in fantasy. The difference is mine's a rookie. Travis Hunter of the Jacksonville Jaguars is this year's Jamar Chase. Top 12 wide receiver in fantasy as a rookie.
This year's Jamar Chase would imply that he is a Triple Crown winner.
This year's Jamar Chase as in Jamar Chase as a rookie.
There you go. Okay.
That's what I mean. He's this year's Jamar Chase. If you remember the narrative around Jamar Chase, oh, he keeps dropping the football. We can't draft this guy in fantasy. 6th round pick. Travis Hunter, oh, this guy might play some defense. We can't draft him in fantasy. 6th round pick. Guys, we have heard all offseason, offense first, defense second. The team puts out a depth chart. What happens on it, Corey? First string wide receiver, second string DB. This guy is one of the best wide receiver talents to come into the NFL that I have ever watched in my life. You guys know the prospect profile. I don't have to rehash it. Corey knows exactly all the things I could say. 69% contested catch rate at 185 pounds. One of the best separators of all time. Like, I can make the whole case for Travis Hunter's talent. You guys can watch back on the channel. If this guy is instantly and immediately playing 80+% of the snaps on offense, why wouldn't he be a top 12 wide receiver? He is one of the 12 best wide receivers on earth today.
Yeah, and you can make the argument his teammate is also one of the 12 best receivers on earth, and I drafted both of them. In my home league, I drafted Brian Thomas Jr. at the 204. You guys can watch that vlog back earlier today. And I drafted Travis Hunter in the 6th round, like you said, and when I took him, 3 of my league mates said, isn't he going to play defense? Like, people think this is true. Like, people have ran with the narrative. And Travis Hunter, like you said, it's presenting a huge buying window, a huge opportunity, because if it were true, like if the narrative were true and all they've said is that he's going to play defense or something, we wouldn't be saying this. But since April 27th, 2025, when they drafted the guy, they've been saying offense first the whole time.
Yeah. And if he is playing offense first, which again, nothing should point otherwise. Like the people just saying he'll play defense, like, are you just going off of what ESPN's saying to you? Like,
yeah, like Devontae Adams said the quote that it's like, dude, it's hard to play both in this league. It's like, dude, if he's banged up, he's not going to play defense. They're going to keep him on offense. Like, I bet you the second he's on an injury report, he's not playing any defense.
What's easier, tackling AJ Brown in space or making people miss an open space?
Yeah, and doing the Tyler Lockett thing if you got to, and like slide down and, protect your body and stuff. Like, Travis is going to have to be doing stuff like that. And by all accounts, he's one of the smartest players in the league already. So definitely a guy that we are putting our stamp on.
Wide receiver 1.
Danny specifically is going to live and die by Travis Hunter takes this year. But me too. Like, I'm way ahead of market on him as well. You've just overshadowed me in that regard. Let's go to the final division here, Danny. AFC North, another guy that we have absolutely put our stamp on. That is Chase Brown.
Ooh.
What do you think I'm going to say? Top 5 running back? No.
RB1.
He is going to outscore a healthy Saquon, CMC, and Derrick Henry. He's going to outscore all of them, even if they're healthy. And the reason for that, similar to my Breece Hall take, is receiving touches. That's how he's going to do it. Obviously, Christian's going to fucking do his thing in the receiving game as well. But I do think that Christian may have lost a step. Maybe he finishes as a mid RB1 because he's not the same level of 2023 Christian McCaffrey as he was. Chase Brown, in his prime, entering year 3 of his career, I think he is going to have a monster season. The Bengals are going to throw like crazy. He could have 90+ targets this year. We know he has breakaway speed. We know he can handle a big workload dating back to last year, dating back to Illinois, everything in between. I think Chase Brown, legit, we could look back and do a redraft of 2025 fantasy, and he might be a top 5 pick.
I mean, when you have to go against fierce linebackers like the Ladster in Pee Wee football and stuff, like it'll sharpen you up. So I'll take credit. I mean, the reason why Chase Brown is who he is because he had to try to make Ladster miss an open space.
How many yards did he run for against you guys?
He was fucking insane. Like probably like 120, maybe 130 on like fucking 18 carries, probably.
I mean, it's better than some people. Like I know a guy who played with Damian Harris, and he's like he ran for like 400 yards against them.
Well, dude, did you see? I think it was Seb. He sent us a graphic from Roshan in high school. He had like 450 pass yards and 300 rushing yards in a state championship game or some bullshit.
Yeah, when we're just like normies, and there's like an NFL football player, future NFL football player going up against you, you just realize why they're constructed uniquely. But yeah, Chase Brown outscores a healthy Saquon, CMC, and Derrick Henry. And I mean, you have to imagine he's probably a top 3 to 5 running back in that scenario.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I love Chase Brown. He was literally my favorite pick in the second round for that reason. I just don't understand how we started the season or the offseason, and he was a mid-third. Like, he's gotten steamed appropriately, and I don't even think high enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Danny, you have the final say here.
This might be the spiciest.
Is this the spiciest one you got?
Maybe not as spicy as Noah Gray. Noah Gray was kind of out there, but
I mean, like a top 12 tight end, though.
Okay. How about this one? The Browns drafted 2 rookie running backs. One of them has missed the entire offseason and is still currently unsigned. My bold take is Quinshon Judkins remains unsigned for a while, then gets suspended from the NFL. So now we're talking how many months in a row without team activities?
Yep.
3 months, 4 months. Dylan Sampson, in the time that Judkins misses, is a top 15 running back in fantasy. There is no doubt in my mind that the talent profile is there. He was my RB6 in the class, the tough nature, 33 of 36 short yardage runs as a smaller back. He converted at an SEC Tennessee school. The craziest part, though, we got an immobile Joe Flacco or Dylan Gabriel or whoever the fuck you want to throw behind center for our running back that can downright be a menace in the receiving game. On top of that, yeah, David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy, we expect them to get their targets. Why can't Dylan Sampson be the third target outlet out of the backfield, have a 4 to 6 target per game type of workload, and an efficient zone runner? Like, we're talking about a guy that if he gets the edge, if he's able to take advantage of that Kevin Stefanski run scheme, we can see big plays. So with Dylan Sampson, they're going to be in a lot of pass game scripts. I think he's going to be heavily involved as a receiver. And I can see it down the stretch, him being this year's Chase Brown.
Yeah, no, I think that's, I mean, it's obviously a bold take for sure.
Spicy.
Judkins could get signed here and this could be an irrelevant conversation. But even with Judkins signed, like you said, he could get suspended, he could get exempt. Sampson, because he's been there all offseason, could win the job. Like, I don't think that's probably likely as long as Judkins is healthy. But yeah, I think it's a reasonable take. I've drafted Sampson in my home league. I have him in a number of places. I drafted a shit ton of them on Underdog as well. So I'm
drafted him in the flock league.
Yeah, you got him in the flock. I did draft him in the flock league, but then I traded him to you, which I currently hate myself for doing.
All jokes aside, though, if Judkins is out, like, this is just quite literally Zach Moss versus Chase Brown all over again, right? With him and Jerome Ford.
Yeah, probably.
Like,
yeah, I mean, Jerome Ford, I actually think he's better than Zach Moss, but yeah, there's not a whole lot separating those two situations. AFC North team got a guy who's scat back in college or whatever, who can catch passes and run 4.3s. Yeah, definitely a lot of parallels there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. We went through 16 bold predictions, each of us going through one by division. What do you think was the hottest one? To me, like, if I had to say which was my hottest one, I think Puka outscoring Cup's 2021 season is probably the hottest one that I had. I
mean, like, the Noah Gray one, considering it needs an injury, is probably like the most unlikely to happen. But I mean
Franklin being 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns is pretty hot. That takes the cake.
Outscoring Cortland Sutton is what you said. That takes the cake.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. As of tomorrow, it will be officially week 1, and we will have all the great week 1 goodies for you guys. Long stream tomorrow before the game. Matchups that matter on Friday. Saturdays we'll have our tier list as well. We're going to be getting right into it. If you guys do want access to our weekly rankings, our start-sit rankings, those are available on flockfantasy.com. You can sign up right now. Use the code FSE for 30% off. Free team review. You can still get the season pass. You don't obviously have any use for the draft guides probably anymore because you've probably already drafted, but you will still be covered from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. 4 start-sits, 4 trade calculator, my teams, all that kind of stuff. Still a very good deal, even taking aside the fact that the draft guides are no longer that relevant. And also, too, you can sign up annually, get a free team review. We can break down your fantasy football team And of course, in our weekly rankings, we're also going to have those matchup charts that we had last year, which go over, who's great against the quarterback position, who's great against the running back position, what defenses you should be avoiding, and that type of thing. Vegas information, all that good stuff. If you guys had that last year, you know what I'm talking about. Check it out down below in the pinned comment. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.